Psychoanalysis ISTDP. Psychoanalysis has been a long term therapy. The search for short term therapies has been an ongoing search. ISTDP, intensive short term dynamic short term therapy, is one of the short term therapy approaches that has come up. Therapists and patients within and outside ISTDP are eager to know about it, and to discuss it, we have with us psychoanalysis consultant Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
So, how can we see the movement from psychoanalysis to ISTDP?
History of psychoanalysis is very interesting. There is a historical stream of classical psychoanalysis in the center. This stream is the stream of Freud, Klein, Bion, and their followers. So there is this classical stream of psychoanalysis in the history of psychoanalysis. And there are two radical departures from this classical mainstream within psychoanalysis. The first departure was by Carl Jung. So very early in the history of psychoanalysis, there was a departure by Carl Jung, which was a very radical departure from the classical mainstream. There was a minor departure by Adler, who factored in the social concepts into psychoanalysis. Then we had a few major departures from the classical mainstream. One notable departure was of Wilhelm Reich, who went into this whole idea of life energy, organon, and Rolfing, the massaging of the body to release the pent-up emotions and do catharsis. But these were minor deviations. The real major deviation in the early part of psychoanalysis was only Jung. After Jung, we had these minor departures from the classical mainstream. And then we had a very important and radical departure by Kohut. So Kohut was a real radical departure like Carl Jung from the classical mainstream of psychoanalysis within psychoanalysis. Then we had Lacan, who also was a major departure from the classical mainstream, although connected to the classical mainstream at some point, but he was a radical departure from the classical mainstream. Then we had a few classical departures which took a very unique turn. Like, for example, emotion-centered therapy, hunger-centered therapy, guilt-centered therapy, psychodrama. All these therapies were based upon insights of psychoanalysis, using some of the techniques of psychoanalysis, but they took a very different form. Either they were focused very narrowly on one particular affect, or they took the form more of workshops and very short-term interventions, very intensive but short-term interventions of 1 or 2 days. Instead of the classical twice a week, 1 hour, or 5 times a week, 1 hour kind of a long-term psychoanalytic psychotherapy. So this was the kind of background. And then we have a recent departure, radical departure from the classical mainstream of psychoanalysis within psychoanalysis, and that is ISTDP. Before ISTDP, it is interesting to note that the kind of work they are doing, something near to it has been happening. It's not completely new. The idea that we should focus upon our psychotherapy on release of affect is not a new idea. Classically, in the realm of psychotherapy, there have been three broad areas: those who focus on thoughts, those who focus on affect, and those who focus on behavior. And within all these three compartments, there have been many attempts, many theories, many schools, many techniques, many basket full of tools. So this has been an ongoing history in psychotherapy, and therefore, what ISTDP does to focus upon affect and try to heal by feeling the affect fully and inducing the catharsis in an intense short-term mode, very focused mode, very uh, intervention-led mode, very active therapy mode. That has been practiced in some variations in anger therapy, in guilt therapy,
Hmm.
in emotion-centered therapy. Also, very interestingly, uh, in holistic healing area and spiritual area, variations of this have been in practice for time immemorial.
Hmm.
For example, if we look at the Indian spiritual tradition, the Ayurvedic Panchkarma to clean the body and the psychological Panchkarma to detoxify the psychological aspect of the individual has been a very
Right.
long-standing tradition.
Hmm.
And if we look there, we find the seven important elements: anger, fear, pain, guilt, shame, envy, powerlessness.
Hmm.
These have been the areas of focus for a very, very long time. And in fact, Ayurveda has quite some literature on how each of these basic emotions convert into their somatic equivalents.
Right.
So what ISTDP does is not something new, but the way they are doing it is something new. And
Hmm.
what they have done is to address the question how to get the effect out. And this was
Mm.
a long-standing problem in psychoanalysis, that we would know clearly what the pathological roots are. Intellectually, the person
Yes.
would know about it, but the effect just won't come out. And this led to a very unique situation that Lacan actually coined a term for it. He called this the synthome, Sinthome, where you
Okay.
are able to heal the full problem, but
Hmm.
intellectually know and understand how the whole problem has come into existence and how it operates, and you learn to live with it with awareness and understanding. And that does two things: it reduces the intensity of the problem, enhances your ability to manage the problem. And Lacan there makes a distinction between the symptom and the suffering, that the
Hmm.
symptoms continue, but they no longer convert into suffering because you understand it so profoundly.
Right.
And this, I think, is nothing more than a sophisticated, celebrated, um, colorful expression of our helplessness and inability.
Hmm.
Because
I
what,
think that's an interesting way to
yeah,
put across.
yeah. So, what kind of therapy is that which says symptom can be accepted as a goal? Obviously,
Hmm.
statement of defeat and helplessness, nothing more. And
True.
this was an honest admission on part of Lacan, which many other schools of psychoanalysis don't admit it so honestly, that often you run into a dead end in psychoanalytic psychotherapy, and this dead end either continues for a short time or a long time, where intellectually you know everything, the patient knows everything, but the effect just does not come out and the healing does not take place. You get relief, but you don't get the cure. ISTDP is a very good tool. It's a technique innovation primarily, It is not really a, uh, conceptual innovation in the sense that it has a model of the mind, explanation of pathogenesis, and therefore the healing method. No, it essentially starts from the healing method without going into the fundamental details of model of the mind and pathogenesis.
Mm.
So ISTDP is a wonderful tool to complement what we were missing in classical psychoanalysis. And
Okay.
ever since Dawan Lu's path-breaking work in ISTDP, it has been evolving in a very accelerated way, I would say.
Right. So, sir, to understand ISTTP better, uh, I would like to discuss what is the conceptual foundation of ISTTP.
Conceptual foundations of ISTDP rest on a few premises. The first is that the cause of pathology is in the unconscious mind. And on this point, it agrees completely with psychoanalysis.
True.
Second, it believes in the unconscious mind, it is the blocked up affect which is the cause for pathology. So it is
Okay.
that something is ideationally unknown or something behaviorally has not been practiced and therefore the problem. The problem
Mm-hmm.
essentially in the unconscious mind has not to do so much with behavior and thought, but it has to do with blocked up affect. So first
So that means it
was,
emphasizes more on repression and suppression.
yeah, essentially it is based upon the pent up affect in the unconscious.
Right.
So the
Right.
first foundation principle was that the cause of pathology essentially is in the unconscious mind.
Mm.
Second is that in the unconscious mind, it is primarily blocked up affect. The third foundation is that one must have active, directed, and high intervention session to get this effect out.
Mm-hmm.
One should not get into a passive, accommodative, non-interventionist mode as it is in classical psychoanalysis.
All right.
Fourth pillar is that the effect has to be felt fully in the body with full awareness and understanding. That if the affect is just because normally we don't feel affect fully in our body with full awareness and
Mm.
understanding. When we say
Mm.
I am angry, we have a very hazy, amorphous idea that I am angry. We feel something in our head. We don't even realize what other parts of the body, what are we feeling at that moment. So for any feeling, our experience of any feeling actually is very hazy and partial. It is not very clear with full awareness and full intensity involving our body. So
So doesn't it kind of reinforces the pathology of somatizing all the emotions?
no, because we are providing a avenue out to the effect to go out.
Okay. To
And
exit.
yeah, and this brings us to the next point, the next pillar of foundation that uh, there are natural healthy pathways for flow of emotions which have been
Mm.
blocked in the process of
Right.
upbringing, which we have to open out through this therapy.
Very interesting.
The most healthy and common pathway that is blocked is the flow of anger into our striated muscles of the limbs, hands and legs.
Mm-hmm.
Those pathways are blocked and they have to be opened up. Another pillar is to, once the affect starts rising up, often it leads to defenses and before the affect rises, it leads to defenses and anxiety which have to be regulated. And once the affect
Mm-hmm.
comes up and you feel it with full awareness and understanding in your body, You have to allow the affect to take its natural course, and which is to allow the impulse to convert into action in your imagination in which you fully participate. And that is where one man psychodrama element comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That although they may not like to use the word, it is essentially a guided one man psychodrama with a particular focus of getting anger, pain, and guilt out. So this
Mm-hmm.
next pillar, that essentially when they say that we have to release the pent up affect, the focus in ISTDP essentially is on three affects: anger, pain, and guilt. One can argue what about shame, envy, and other such affects.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can take it up as one of the limitations of this process, that at present primarily it is focused upon pain, anger, and guilt. Another important
Or
element,
probably
yeah, sorry.
Or probably the triad you mentioned of anger, pain, and guilt, and the other tertiary emotions, which can be condensed down to the triad again. Like shame can activate pain, shame can activate anger. So maybe it is the kind of physiological expression why it is limited to the triad of anger, pain, and guilt.
It is more, you are right. It is more on the lines of Ayurvedic Panchakarma.
Okay.
That in Ayurvedic Panchakarma, you do the five karmas, the five processes to detox the body.
Hmm.
And that takes care of what I call the rule of 75. It does 75% cleaning in 75% of people.
Okay.
Now, if you get into exceptions of where it does
Hmm.
not work and why it does not work, and where it works, why it works, that is
Hmm.
an area about which we don't have much in ISTDP.
Okay.
Like, for example, if we talk about envy, right, that envy leads to anger. There is a destructive envy, you want to destroy somebody, or shame
Hmm.
leads to pain.
Hmm.
Then, if you treat envy and shame only as uh, on the way distractions, or at worst as defenses,
Hmm.
and you only focus on anger, pain, and guilt, then we may have a situation where envy leads
Yeah.
to anger. We would
Hmm.
we would sort of detox, we would cathart out the anger, but we may not be able to deal with envy per se. And then it becomes a ritual and it keeps going on and on.
Right. Hmm.
So this brings us to the next pillar, that with the catharsis of anger is generally followed by uprising of guilt, is generally
Mm-hmm.
followed by very deeply rooted grief and pain.
All right.
And when this happens, uh, one gets into a state where very deep restructuring of the psyche is possible. And
Mm-hmm.
that is where other elements like envy, shame, or whatever else be, the reasons for that, then the schema behind them can be fundamentally restructured.
Okay.
Another pillar of ISTDP is that it is a state-based therapy. So if you divide all therapies into two, the state-based therapies and the state-neutral therapies, CBT,
Hmm.
REBT would be state-neutral therapies. They
Right.
follow a frame of therapy which induces a particular situation and a state.
Right.
Contrast to CBT and REBT, psychoanalysis is a very state-based therapy. The couch, the person behind the couch, the anonymity of the therapist, the fixed timings, so far as possible, a blank therapy room.
Mm.
All of these are meant to induce a particular state, and in that state, the tools of the school are used.
Hmm.
Similarly, in hypnotherapy, you
Right.
Create a state in the person, and in that state you use your tools.
Hmm.
ISTDP also is a state-based therapy. So it creates a
Okay.
state, and within the state, the tools are used. So this principle is that you have to create an artificial healing crisis inside the person so that the healing becomes faster and deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates a state of artificial crisis conducive for healthy transformation. And lastly, important pillar is it is theory agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
What it says is you pull up the effect, and along with effect, everything else gets pulled up. So whether
Okay.
it is Oedipus or split or whatever else you can think about from any psychoanalytic school point of view, all
Hmm.
these phenomena may be actually true.
Hmm.
HTTP is not contesting the validity of those phenomena, but the focus is
Right.
not on that phenomena. The focus is to be school agnostic, to be cause agnostic, pathogenesis agnostic. Focus on the effect, pull the effect up. Along with the effect, whatever is there necessary to be pulled up will get pulled up. So if it is
Okay.
Oedipus, it will come out. If it is the uh, envy, it will come out. If it is the guilt, it will come out. If it is the uh, greed, it will come out. If it is the split, it will resolve itself. And
Would that would become a task for the therapist to deal with what first?
yeah, so it comes out most of the time sequentially, at times in terms of mixture of everything. And even if it
Okay.
comes out as a mixture, uh, we can still deal it part by part.
Mm-hmm.
And the dealing is so quick in that particular state that very soon we get done with one part and we can move to the next. So this is the way uh, the last pillar is. And as we go along, we will see that over a period
Hmm.
of its evolution, ISTDP has realized it can no longer be theory agnostic completely.
All
So
right.
slowly and gradually, we see that what started off as a theory agnostic process, slowly theories and schools of psychoanalysis are seeping into the process.
Okay.
So these are some of the conceptual foundations of ISTDP. And in terms of technique, they video record all the sessions so that the therapist can self-supervise or go for supervision to accelerate the process even more.
Dr. Vaidya, you just mentioned the evolutionary part of this ISTDP technique. Would love to ask you this. How has it been evolving all these years?
The evolution of ISTDP has been along three different lines. One is ISTDP has developed as it is with some modifications in terms of the language used, the statements used, the
Mm-hmm.
pace used, the insights which are fed back because of empirical research in ISTDP. So there has been
Mm-hmm.
empirical evolutionary and operational evolutionary movement in ISTDP. It has been improving on itself. That is one line of development. The second line of development has been, so this has to be more in the form of, I would say, empirical and operational evolution of ISTDP. There is a
Mm-hmm.
second uh, line where ISTDP has evolved in terms of dealing differently with different patients. Like
All right.
previously, all patients were dealt with by a similar method. Now they have realized that with fragile patients, the classical method does not work. So they have got into mode
Hmm.
of creating safety, getting into supportive mode, which we have been saying all along from the classical psychoanalytic point that you cannot confront and challenge everyone.
Right.
So that is second, that now slowly they are moving into dealing with different groups of patients in slightly different ways. What they call the graded approach.
Mm-hmm. All
The
right.
third element is that based upon the core psychoanalytic work, many innovative techniques have evolved. What is broadly called
Mm-hmm.
experiential dynamic therapy, EDT. So what happened was somebody came into ISTDP from, say, acceptance commitment therapy. So that person gelled the ACT with ISTDP and created something of
Hmm.
his or her own. Somebody came from
Okay.
psychodrama background and learned ISTDP and
Mm.
combined the two to create a form
Mm.
of one's own.
Mm.
So people have combined uh, their own learning into ISTDP and created creative versions of therapy based upon the core ISTDP
Mm-hmm.
work. So this broad range of therapies, which is called EDT, and there is a very good website of EDT if one is interested to know
Okay.
more. Right? And this EDT is another development in the evolution of ISTDP. The third
Okay.
development in ISTDP is very important, and that parallels the evolution of hypnotherapy. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hypnotherapy evolved in a very interesting way. At first, hypnotherapy was used to put somebody into a trance, get access to that material which in the waking
Hmm.
state was repressed, and give suggestions to alter the
Right.
schema or undo the feelings or induce catharsis, or just use the force of a suggestion to strengthen the healthy part of oneself to successfully repress or deal with the non-healthy part of oneself. One could also give suggestions which
Mm.
are timed, like after 3 days at this particular time you will do X. So this was the classical hypnotherapy. If you look at modern hypnotherapy, what they
True.
have done is they have realized that once you create the state of the trance, it is a very suggestive, very plastic, very malleable state. And in that state, you can use tools of CBT, REBT, ACT, and whatnot. So they are
Hmm.
introducing the trance, and in that trance, they are using all the tools from every theory conceivable. So you introduce a state
Hmm.
that you use tools in the state, tools not only from your school, but incorporated from various schools. Now
Hmm.
this parallel development is
Right.
happening in ISTDP. They are slowly integrating
Okay.
statements and tools from other schools of psychotherapy, right? And using them in that state that they create. So the state
Hmm.
that they create of focus on affect by removing thought, right? By criticizing thought, by sidestepping thought, almost condemning thought,
Right.
and you bring about exclusive focus on the affect. In that state, you use all the tools. For example, in acceptance therapy, there is a very famous uh, tool, which is statement, which is said, all this has happened, can we just accept it?
Okay.
So can we just accept it? XYZ has happened. You are saying it is
Hmm.
true. It is tragic, but it has happened. And there's nothing you can do about it, I can do about it. Can we just accept it? and that leads the person into accepting it, feeling the pain of it, mourning and catharting it out. And this statement,
Okay.
can we just accept it? It's a very powerful statement for acceptance and mourning.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, the statement of cost benefit analysis, that
Right.
you have been living with this symptom for 10 years. Can you tell me what is the cost? Would you like to continue paying the cost? Now, this is a statement you get from CBT and you put it here.
Hmm. Right.
There has also been one line of development of ISTDP of incorporating learnings from other areas, tools from other areas, and using them in the state that ISTDP creates. And lastly, the
Right.
evolution is now reaching a very critical mode where the old learning, and this is like old is gold learning, is slowly getting into ISTDP, that you cannot
Mm-hmm.
be theory agnostic for long, and you cannot treat all groups of patients as the same.
Right.
And uh, this brings us to a point that
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to mention this in the principles of ISTDP, but one of the very important principles of
Okay.
ISTDP is this, that it is a psychotherapy
Mm-hmm.
for the positive and the strong. The principle is God
All
helps
right.
those who help themselves.
That goes
Whereas,
with most of the therapies.
yeah, but in many therapies we say we want to help those who cannot help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
there are two elements: people who are positive and strong enough to help themselves, and people who have to be helped, supported to reach to a state where they can reach the state of helping themselves. So this uh, is also slowly changing. They are realizing that there is a group of people where you cannot use this principle that God helps those who help themselves. You have to go by the principle we will help those who cannot help themselves. And this is what they call as a
All
support,
right.
right? The safety work. And this is a new change in the evolution of ISTDP. And my feeling is more
Right.
and more schools will get into ISTDP, and ISTDP will get into many other schools as we go along.
Very interesting, especially Mr. Vedder, when you talked about, it is a state induced therapy and its exclusive focuses on the effect. We would like to know, how does ISTDP operate in practice, and does ISTDP do video recording of sessions too? Because there is a lot of confidential material involved, especially when catharsis is taking place.
Both questions are very important questions. The first is the operational part of ISTDP. Usually, they start with a trial session, which is generally of either 2 hours or
Hmm.
3 hours. Some people use 2 hours, some people use 3 hours. And the first session is the trial
Okay,
session, which is
in
used,
a stretch.
yeah, at a stretch. And the first session is a trial session to find out the suitability of the candidate for the ISTDP process, and to find out uh, what kind of character structure, what kind of ego strength the person has.
Hmm. Hmm.
And after this trial session, usually it is on an ongoing basis, once a week session. Some people use a 1 hour session, and some people use a 2 hour session, some people use a 3 hour session. In that session, which is
Okay.
face to face, it's a face to face session. The therapist is very active, directing, and trying to bring out the effect in the person by keeping aside the thinking part of the by keeping aside the thinking discussion. They don't go into any thought discussion, try to minimize it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of bringing out affect, the defense work and anxiety work is to be done. So this is essentially the job of the therapist, and it's a very
Mm-hmm.
standardized process. What they call the central dynamic sequence is to start with
Mm-hmm.
definition of the problem, the cost of the problem, the willingness of the person to solve the problem,
Mm-hmm.
or getting a specific instance,
Mm-hmm.
specific example. In that example, what feelings were felt, and through that, get
Okay.
into the anger, pain, and guilt. And usually,
Mm-hmm.
when the feelings come up completely into the body, the person wants to act out in imagination, which is called the portrayal.
Okay.
And in that portrayal, the person acts out his feelings. And usually, these
Mm-hmm.
feelings are sadistic, murderous, and torturous fantasies, mostly
Mm-hmm.
related to the parent figures or emotionally significant people in life. And once this is
Mm-hmm.
done, the guilt and grief, which are deeply repressed, come up, and you enter into a state of high plasticity and malleability. And that is where the restructuring
Okay.
becomes very easy. And the restructuring is done. So this is the how the whole process follows. And uh, a very important element of this process is to note the use of defense and the rise of anxiety which happens the moment we try to access our feelings. And the more person becomes aware of
Okay.
it, better he is able to handle and in a short period of time overcome. So this is how operationally it operates, and sessions are video recorded, and that is a double-edged sword because of many reasons. First is,
Mm-hmm.
in a therapy mature country like USA or maybe UK or France, it may not be so much of a problem. But in countries like India, or I would say much of Asia, very few people are ready for a video recorded session. That is one.
True.
Two, uh, the camera does make a difference regardless of what they say. Because if people are going to talk about the Oedipus or talk about something which can be legally held against them, would like to say it in front of the camera. So,
True.
regardless of whatever the proponents say, the camera is definitely the society in the room, and definitely it causes inhibition. It is an agent of inhibition, no doubt about it. So there are many people who are not ready for this therapy because of camera, at least in India, and there are many who would come for this therapy but not with camera.
Hmm.
And therefore, this also leads to another point, that why do you video record it? You video record it for self supervision and supervision. But if you actually
Hmm.
look at what most ISTDP therapists are doing, out of so many sessions they record, they hardly use one for self-supervision or uh, usual supervision. And much of the recording is
All
just
right.
out of a plain convention and orthodoxy and a mechanical application of principle. The point there is,
You just use the word self supervision. Sorry for interrupting. That just actually brought into attention. You use the word self supervision. Does that mean that video recording is accessible to the client as well?
no, not that. In ISTDP, self-supervision means
Okay.
that you yourself, if you are a therapist, you yourself see the recording and you supervise yourself.
Okay. The therapist.
Because usually in supervision,
All
we
right.
work
Okay.
to somebody else.
I get that.
So they say that if you,
Hmm.
not only they say, it is true that if you look at your tape, you can find
Hmm.
out many things you could have done differently. And so next time you can
Right.
make those changes. And this overcomes the problem that whenever we make a transcript, usually we forget almost 50 to
Hmm.
60% of what actually happened. And many of the vital information like our facial expressions, our hand gestures, the patient's facial expressions, his hand gestures, his body language is not captured by our transcript. So the transcript can
True.
easily become a convenient reconstruction. Whereas in a video recording, there is no question of deviation from the fact. So video recording for supervision definitely is better, but the point is uh, most of the video recordings that people do in ISTDP, they go unsupervised. They are just for the sake of video recording, they do it. And here you are taking on the liability of one of the most explosive data that can ever be. So it is
Right.
a double-edged sword and should be used judiciously rather than mechanically and universally, which is a new form of orthodoxy that I see in ISTDP.
Mhm. But still, Mr. Vedya, how would you explain the spontaneity of the therapist with regard to the effect being generated or the gestures or the observations being made? Because then otherwise, if you carry forward it to the next session, it becomes a structured and a planned session. So how this point of spontaneity would be addressed there? Because any human interaction, even if it is coming from an expert, can have some flaws with regard to the spontaneity of the moment. So how would you address that?
Yeah, so when we look at the videotape, we do see moment to moment what happened to us and what happened to him.
Mm.
And once we know it, the next time it happens, we can do a better job of it. So
Okay.
spontaneity does not cease, but we gain an understanding of spontaneity. And if the same thing repeats, we are able to handle it much better. There is also another point which you raised rightly. What happens in the next session? So in ISTD,
Hmm.
we treat every session as a separate session and we allow the patient to start wherever he wants to start from. So even though we would have concluded the last
All
session,
right.
very important point, which may be the center of his pathology according to our analysis, we don't start our
Hmm.
session by continuing
Hmm.
with that theme. We allow the patient to start wherever
Okay.
he wants. And the idea there is that the unconscious of the patient knows best how to sequence the process of healing. Instead of we using our
So
intellect
that
to sequence the
right.
process of healing, and I have a difference here because uh, when we moved from classical psychoanalysis to ISTDP, people said
Right.
that we cannot rely on the unconscious, right? Because unconscious can easily use free association as a defense. And therefore,
Very true. I was about to raise that question.
we have to intervene and direct the session, which is a blasphemy in classical
Hmm.
psychoanalysis. So this radical departure
True.
of
Very true.
directing the session, of intervening so highly, of almost conducting the session, so to say, if we
Hmm.
are deviating so much and at one point we are saying we cannot rely on the unconscious to always do the good, why are we relying it here? And therefore I personally feel that if the therapist feels that the center of the pathology is something and he would like to focus a few sessions, I don't see any harm in the therapist focusing the session, like at least a few sessions, rather than following mechanically this rule of allowing the unconscious to sequence the
Hmm.
process of healing.
Right. So, sir, we talked about certain things like video recording and confidentiality and these unconscious defenses, so many other aspects. That brings in a vague question to my head that how is the balance of rights in ISTDB framework today? Because other schools are totally different.
It's an important question, and I think this question will be taken up by law rather than by ISTDP.
All right.
Law is more likely to address problem of balance of rights, not so much ISTDP therapies, because there is a problem there. The balance of right is completely skewed in favor of the therapist. And I think as it is, the patients are not getting a balanced share of rights. Now, what do I mean by this? The first difficulty is many therapists who practice ISTDP refuse to take patients if they are not comfortable with the camera. And my personal feeling is uh,
Mm-hmm.
somehow law should balance the rights of patients to seek therapy without the camera, and it should not be left completely to the therapist to say it is a take it or leave it situation. So a patient should have a
All
right, in
right.
my view, to go for ISTDP and access it without the camera if he wants to do it without the camera. For supervision purposes, the therapist who can be empowered to record a fixed number of sessions, let us say one per month or something of that sort. But there is no need to have a take it or leave it situation that I will record every session or you don't come for therapy. So I think that on this point there needs to be a redressal in favor of the patient. The second right is the right of the patient to access the recordings. At present, the patient does not have rights to access the recording. And this may not be just for entertainment purpose. The patient may learn, particularly if he is a more informed and intelligent patient, the patient can as much learn by looking at himself on what point, how he has responded to. So it is the self, just as the therapist learns by self-supervision, the patient can also learn by self-viewing. Why should we deny or discount the possibility of the patient's capability to self-learn?
Mm-hmm.
The third point is regarding uh, the reliability of storage. Now, this is the most explosive data you can have on this planet. And how is a therapist going to guarantee the security of this data? Banks and insurance companies who are spending billions of dollars per year, if they are getting hacked, I mean, what great thing is a therapist going to do to protect this kind of data? And what if tomorrow somebody hacks and uses this data for blackmail?
Hmm.
These are the issues that really need an answer, because I think we need a kind of a centralized online repository of this kind of things which is securely guarded by the government. It is too much to ask, or even
Hmm.
stupid to expect actually, that a therapist who does not know anything in IT would be able to do a better job than banks and insurance companies who, with full IT departments and billions of dollars in security, still can't protect their data.
Very true.
So this is something where we have to be very careful, and law has to come in to create a secure infrastructure to secure whatever data is being collected, and not to collect data if not necessary. Because the first principle of data security is don't collect data if not necessary.
Right.
So this is very, very important. And the last point is also very important from patient's rights point of view. And that brings us to this whole idea of using confrontation and challenge in therapy.
Hmm.
Now, we have to go back to Kernberg and debates of his time, the Kernberg Kohut kind of environment and debates of those times, which gave us a very rich wisdom. And the wisdom was you can divide from a therapy point of view entire population into four classes.
Okay.
One group which cannot be given any form of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
They are too fragile or too disturbed for any form of therapy whatsoever. Second group which can be given only supportive therapy. Third group which can be given interpretative therapy but still not involving confrontation and challenge. And the fourth group, the healthiest of the group, where we can use confrontation and challenge as a tool of therapy. Now, ISTDP uses confrontation and challenge as a central tool of therapy very pervasively, almost universally.
Okay.
This brings in an important element of patients' rights because confrontation and challenge is a double-edged sword in the context of therapy. If you get results, then ends justify means. But if you don't get results, then you are only re-traumatizing the patient. And this is a very important element that you cannot use confrontation and challenge without adequate abundant caution. And this has happened in ISTDP
Hmm.
that for last 15 years, before they realized that a fragile patient should not be challenged and confronted with and should be provided safe supportive environment. Before this was realized, for decades, they used to practice the same classical model on fragile patients, and in most cases, they were not getting results, and they ended up re traumatizing the patient, which they honestly don't want to admit. So, this idea of
Right.
using challenge and confrontation is a double edged sword. If you don't get results, you end up re traumatizing the patient. In the Indian situation, it's even worse because it's a psychotherapy immature society in terms of knowledge. So if a patient comes to you who is fragile, you use the classical method, he gets re-traumatized, does not get
Hmm.
healed, he leaves therapy. He believes that all therapy and all therapies are like this. There's no other way. He is not an educated person like a Western individual is, who knows that there are different kinds of therapies and different types of therapies. So this man in Indian conditions will never come to therapy or ever again. So the consequences for him are far
True.
more than just the re-traumatizing in the session that happens. It has a radical impact on his entire healing or non-healing. So these are some of the
Hmm.
patient rights issues which I don't think have been adequately dealt with in ISDP. And I feel personally that if it does not come from
Mm-hmm.
ISTDP, which I don't think it will, my feeling is patients' rights movements and law will uh, provide a change in ISTDP to balance out the rights of the two parties.
Two part. I think that's very important and need of the hour before the therapy actually becomes so prevalent and mostly used with the masses. When you during the discussion, you pointed at certain things like patients being very fragile in nature, or it can be more accommodating with regards to healing when there is a lot of positivity and self-help attitude involved in the patient. So, exactly what types of patients it can treat, and is it only for those with strong ego strength?
Uh, Unfortunately, yes. It is usually for those with good ego strength and very positive people.
Mm-hmm.
They say that they can treat fragile patients by first creating safety, going supportive, and then coming back to their original central procedure. Uh, I don't think it is the best approach for fragile patients, weak patients, or those with deeply embedded personality disorders where fragility also is involved.
So, but
Officially,
when you say positive, then how would the negative things like depression would be treated here?
uh, officially speaking, what they say is that except for florid psychosis, deep depression, autism, mental
Mm.
retardation, fragile borderline, except for
Mm.
one group of people, this technique can be used for practically all other pathologies. And
Mm-hmm.
the innovation now is that they have a graded approach that for
Okay.
uh, fragile patients, patients with psychosis, patients with uh, very fragile borderline personality disorder,
Hmm.
they have a very graded approach, a very slow, safe, supportive approach. Right?
Hmm.
And this approach also is a irony because it is neither intense nor short term.
Okay.
So it's not actually
Hmm.
ICDP because it's neither intense nor short term. What they are
Uh-huh.
doing is the classical supportive therapy face to face. It is
Okay.
hardly the only difference between a classical supportive therapy done by a Cohusian or by a Jungian or by somebody from Carl Rogers background, and this process is only the cital dynamic sequence. Otherwise, there is hardly any difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then one can argue that if this is what has to be done, then why use this particular therapy, this structure, which was meant for intense short-term use? Why not
Mm-hmm.
go to those very therapies which are specializing in this, in holding, in supporting, in creating safety? So,
Hmm.
so apart from so this is one set of patients like deeply depressed, acutely floridly psychotic, very fragile borderline, autistic, mental retarded, or things of those types. Except for that, they practically are taking in everyone and using two different formats. The classical
Okay.
format for one group, the largest group, and the graded
Mm-hmm.
format, the soft supportive format for the fragile and the deeply disturbed patients. So
All right.
this is how it is. The only point is that okay, I'll come to it when we talk about something else.
Okay. Um, when we talk about the rights, when we talk about the duration, when we talk about emphasizing more on positive and ego strength, more of patients who have better ego strength, that brings into a question like, what are the limitations to this approach? Like every school does have some limitations. Where does this approach run into limitations?
It's a very good question because many of the cases that we see in ISTDP actually are what I call harvest cases. Harvest
Okay.
cases means that a person who has been through four different types of therapies has already worked in different modes on himself and
Hmm.
actually knows much of what is wrong with him. And the only thing remains is to bring out the effect. And he comes to ISTDP. ISTDP is able to bring out the effect, and the entire credit goes to ISTDP. But actually, it is harvesting the work of many others.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is an important point to note that many of the success cases in ISTDP are actually harvest cases. That we should not
Mm-hmm.
discount work that was done before the person came to ISTDP.
Mm-hmm.
This brings out the this is a good way to start discussion on the limitations of ISTDP. You rightly
Mm-hmm.
said there is Nothing like an omnipotent all good therapy. Every therapy has strengths and weaknesses. Every therapy has limitations. In the healing area, we realize one principle, and that is this: everything works on someone and nothing works on everyone. So
So
that is
true.
true as much for ISTDP as much for any other approach, that it
Any other
cannot
approach.
be a tool which works every time on everyone. Obviously, there are going to be people and times it's not going to work. And this brings us to the limitations of ISTDP. And I would divide them into three categories: the operational limitations,
Okay.
the tactical limitations, and the strategic limitations. The operational limitations pertain to, for example, use of the camera. That may not be the best uh, way to deal with many patients and many pathologies in many cultures. Second operational limitation can be use of statements of a particular type, because ISTDP uses very standardized statements. So you will see every therapist trained in ISTDP using the same statement over and over again. I mean, from an operational
Okay.
point of view, you only have to remember 25 statements, not more, to do ISTDP.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these statements, unfortunately, are flawed. Take an example.
Oh.
The
Mm.
statement that uh, you suppose the patient gets into a situation where he does not feel anything. So the patient says, I don't feel. The therapist asks the patient, what are you feeling? And the
Hmm.
patient says, I don't feel anything. And the therapist says,
Hmm.
you don't feel anything only when you are dead. So it cannot
Hmm.
happen. So let me know, what are you feeling? Now, this is a
Hmm.
wrong statement. It may have worked with some people who could not cognitively cut this statement out, but it is a wrong statement,
Right.
because uh, just look at the counter. Let us say the patient says, it is not true.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm alive at this moment and I'm not feeling anything. Therefore, the statement you are saying is true, false.
Hmm.
It's true. The patient is alive, and it's also true the patient is not feeling anything at the moment. So,
Hmm.
consciously feeling something and having feelings in the unconscious are two different things.
Two different things.
Right? And not having access to feelings will result in a situation where, even though there would be feelings in the unconscious, the patient is very right when he says that he does not feel anything. It is true. You are
True.
theorizing. You are theorizing that feelings must be there in the unconscious. But the practical conscious experience is that there is no feeling. So we don't know whether your theory is true or not, but we definitely know
Hmm.
that the experience of the patient is true.
Hmm.
Safe way would be to say that it seems very unlikely that you may not have any feelings. Perhaps you don't have access to your feelings. So this would be
True.
a kind of an operational change which is required. Take a second example of an operational change, operational limitation as I see it. The first
Hmm.
statement, uh, what is the internal emotional problem can I help you with? Now I have a
Hmm.
problem with the word help. I would be okay if somebody says, what can we work on together? What can we focus on? What
Hmm.
can I guide you on? But help is a problematic word because it's a paid service. Since when has a paid service become help? So this is the operational issue. These are two examples of limitations. There are many
Hmm.
others. Similarly, I would take an example of a technical
Hmm.
limitation. For example, you ask the patient to say, whenever I ask you to feel, you feel anxious. Do you notice that? And the patient says, yes, I notice.
Hmm.
Whenever I ask you to do something good to you, a part of you becomes critical of you and beats you up. Do you notice that? And the patient says, I notice that. And the noticing keeps happening. The notice board is full of noticing, but no
Mm.
change happens. Now, the difficulty here is
Hmm. So
unless,
here that coming from unconscious to conscious doesn't solve it.
yeah, the difficulty here is that in some cases noticing brings change, and in some cases noticing does not bring change.
Mm.
Now, you can't resolve this difficulty without going into dynamics of how the noticing works. Obviously, noticing is working internally at the depth of the mind in two different ways. One working of the noticing is not leading to change, the second is leading to change.
Yes.
And therefore, this cannot be resolved unless you go into the model of the mind. And this is not
Mm.
a theory which is coming from model of the mind. This is not a theory which says this is the model of the mind, this is how the mind operates, this is how pathology develops, and this is how I heal. It is not a bottom-up approach, it's a top-down approach where I have
Hmm.
standardized healing method and I don't know the pathogenesis or the model of the mind, and I don't care to know. So this is a tactical problem of uh, one tactical problem. Second tactical problem would be uh, to say the person says, I just don't feel anything. And you say, what can I do? You have to feel. And the person says, how should I feel it? Tell me
Mm.
something what to do. And the therapist says, you are doing a projection of will. By pretending to be helpless, it's complete rubbish. The real point is,
Mm.
in ISTDP framework, we just don't have a basket full of tools. We have not developed what we should have developed. So we don't have
Mm-hmm.
any tool. When the person asks, what should I do? At times it may be defense of helplessness. At times it may be projection of will. But there are really times when it is neither of it. The person is trying with his full-blooded effort. And it is not a question of helplessness. It is a question of powerlessness. He does not feel helpless. He feels
Maybe
himself,
stuckness.
yeah, he feels himself as a agency. He wants to do something. He is full-blooded there with all
Mm.
his strength, but the strength is not enough. It is not helplessness, it is powerlessness. And when you have the state of powerlessness,
Okay.
you have to enhance the power by providing tools which you don't have. So generation of tools
Hmm.
is a technical difficulty, a technical limitation. And then going to the strategic area, the strategic limitations are this.
Yes.
One, uh, the theory agnostic nature has reached its limitation. So the moment they got into looking at the fragile patients, they realized without closing the split, there is no point in trying to bring up feelings. Either too much anxiety is created, or even if the person feels anger, it is anger felt in the split, and that anger does not lead to healing. It just becomes
Mm.
habitual, repeats every time. So this brings in an element that
Right.
the Kleinian theory already has come into ISTDP. It is no longer a theory agnostic approach which said, I will pull up the effect and whatever is the pathology will get pulled up and get resolved. It has got into a situation where without accepting it, the Kleinian theory already is in.
Mm.
My feeling is the next theory which will be in will be Kohout.
Okay.
Because the moment you deal with fragile personality disorders, there is no way confrontation and head-on collision will work.
Hmm.
Wood's approach of holding, of empathy, of allowing the shame to come up, that is going to be the next thing to come in. And therefore, uh, one of the strategic limitations is that the stance of theory agnostic approach is a difficulty. And the second strategic uh, difficulty is of the cultural element, that the
Mm-hmm.
cultural element is not factored in. The kind of
Mm-hmm.
confrontation and the kind of uh, directing and the kind of head-on collision, uh, which is used, It is not easy in many cultures for that to be used. For example, imagine a female therapist in India trying a head-on collision with a man much elder to her.
Hmm.
I mean, most people will walk out of the therapy. So this is a very different cultural orientation. Take for example in Iran, where
Mm-hmm.
cutting short somebody's thought process or articulation is supposed to be very rude, very like India. So they
Mm-hmm.
have come out
Mm-hmm.
with a very non-confrontational form of ISTDP.
Oh,
So these are some of the strategic difficulties with the approach. So you have limitations at all the levels. And one of the strategic limitations is this, that the central dynamic sequence often does not produce results. And there is no explanation why. That the person goes through everything. There are breakthroughs upon breakthroughs upon breakthroughs, but no breakthrough in deep long-term healing.
mm-hmm.
So these are some of the issues. So at operational level, at technical level, at strategic level, you can see the limitations of this particular approach. And it's an evolving approach. I'm not saying this cannot be overcome. I'm sure they will be overcome. Theory will expand and enrich itself. But as of now, these are the limitations as it stands.
Very well said that as far as the evolution has taken place, it is still in progressive state. So how do you think will it evolve in future?
My feeling is that certain elements of its evolution uh, we can see. The first element is
Mm-hmm.
it will become very theory incorporating. The theory agnostic stance will change. It will incorporate.
Hmm.
I forgot to mention, even the Freudian theory has got incorporated in a way that when it came to sexual problems and the Oedipal problems, right, uh,
Mm-hmm.
normally the therapist in ISTDP plays within what is said by the patient. Now, Oedipus is an area which is so
Okay.
repressed that if you rely on the patient, many patients would just never touch it, even if you go on for years. So, the
True.
therapist brings in his own intervention of asking the patient for his masturbatory fantasies. And this takes us back to Freud's concept of central masturbatory fantasy.
Mm.
This is where, just as Klein has come in for the split, Freud has come in for dealing with Oedipal issues or sexual issues.
Sexual
So,
issues.
one
Hmm.
point of evolution is theory is getting incorporated into ISTDP and no longer remaining theory agnostic. Second is creating tools. Okay? At present, they don't have a basket of toolkits. Like what to do when somebody does not feel, what to do when noticing remains noticing, does not produce change, what to do when anger, the whole CDS, central dynamic sequence is followed and no results come out, what to
Hmm.
do when somebody is so fragile that in no time the person gets into cognitive disruption. So the tools, the entire area of tools is missing. Can we ask the person to do some self work between two sessions? The entire self work is missing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, so this is the second element. The first is the coming incorporation of theory. Second is the whole idea of tools.
Theory.
Third is in the tools, a very important set of tool would be the kind of self work. Why not make it even more intense by asking the person to do some self work? I mean, why you stop the intensity only in the session?
Session.
You are hell bent on intensity and you want to make the most of every minute of the session, then why do you want to let go of the time between two sessions? Why not make intensity there also? So this is where
Fair
the
enough.
inconsistency of the approach comes in. The third element is the cultural element, and this is where the social element comes in. That
Mm-hmm.
in many societies, the kind of approach that it is too attacking on the ego. It is too humiliating, and many
Mm-hmm.
people just walk out if we exactly follow that thing. Even in the Indian situation, there is a very large group of men who can never submit themselves to this kind of therapy. The fourth
Mm-hmm.
element is how to build strength, because at present the logo of this therapy is God help those who help themselves. Now, if a therapist
Okay.
says, I can't help you because you can't help yourself, what kind of therapy is that? And therefore, this requires a
True.
change, that we should have something in ISTDP to build up the positive feelings and the positive strength apart from creating safety. And this is an important element of how to build up the positive part of the individual using the same technique. How to turn the technique to enhance the positive instead of just trying to excavate the negative. And maybe in some cases, building the positive is a precursor to exploring the negative. Fourth element
Very
is
rightly said.
Fourth element is to investigate the bring in the conceptual part, particularly in personality disorders. In personality disorders, particularly the
Mm-hmm.
fragile spectrum and those rooted in early life object loss, often
Mm-hmm.
a person is not able to feel because it is a system defense. Because given the point in the person's journey, this is the best that can happen. So it is wrong to assume that
Mm-hmm.
defenses are always dysfunctional. Maybe in many cases, defenses work in a way because that is the only way to save the system from a further disintegration. And
So
that
true.
is something we cannot resolve by just putting pressure, because then we are fighting against the strongest part of the system which is trying to survive and defend itself.
Survive.
So there is a set of
True.
dysfunctional defenses and there is a set of survival defenses in a psychological sense also. Now, when we are up against the survival defenses, because there is nothing better that can happen in the system at the given point, and therefore, when the person says, I can't feel anything, this is the best that can happen to the person in the given point. And we try to find
Hmm.
the best with a head on collision, and it creates such discomfort in the person and such unconscious turmoil and such inchoate rage that most people would drop out of therapy. And this is something which is not factored in because of the earth theoretical nature, or at least the
Hmm.
preference to an earth theoretical nature. I find it stupid when someone says, uh, who are we to presume that we know? We should go into therapy as if we don't know what is there in the unconscious. This is a stupid statement. I mean, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about unconscious, why are you a therapist? So, just as the
Mm-hmm.
omnipotence is a problem, the de-idealization equally is a problem. One should have a healthy sense of one's
Mm-hmm.
capabilities and limitations, but there's no reason to discount one's capabilities. What we would say to the patient, that why are you
True.
discounting yourself and beating yourself up, we can tell ourselves for a moment and do good, something good to ourselves. So this element of bringing in the the phenomena that lies behind fragile personality disorders, particularly the object loss,
Mm-hmm.
it is very necessary to bring in the theory, go into discussion of it, do cognitive work, strengthen the positive part, and provide the kind of support that Kohut talks about. A holding support, in some cases, it can go to the extent of a self-object support. One does not
Mm-hmm.
go to the extreme, the Kohutian extreme of joining in. that may be still
Mm.
a scandalous thing to do. But I think at least to the extent of using the coercion tools of omission, if not the coercion tools of commission, is something into which it will have to evolve. And it will also have to
Mhm.
evolve in terms of uh, many more creative uh, forms using the same basic knowledge. So I'm sure EDT will develop many more forms and become more pervasive and far more spread than it is today. On the legal front, of course, as we talked, it needs to evolve to balance out the rights. And ultimately, we have to move towards uh, some model of the mind, because this creates a very important video recorded empirical evidence of how anger evolves in particular forms of the body. It localizes affect. And
Mhm.
localization of affect is not something new. In the Indian tantric tradition, there is a very long history where we see certain motivations and certain affect generation in the localized way.
Right.
Lastly, I think just as ISTDP incorporates many other therapies, many other therapies may like to incorporate ISTDP into them. For example, the Freudian or the Kleinian school may use the ISTDP type sessions, a few of them, just to bring out the effect, and before and after proceed with what they are doing their own way. So these are some of the
That is to
areas.
accelerate the process.
Sorry.
Would that be in light of accelerating the process?
Yes, because often they are stuck at not being able to bring out the effect, and ISTDP is very good at it. It's a wonderful
Mhm.
tool, although it's a prematurely over-marketed tool. So
Mhm.
it is a wonderful tool, although a prematurely over-marketed tool, and it can be very productively used by the classical schools. For a few sessions, they can take this stance and try to bring the effect out, knowing the phenomena intellectually very well. Both the patient and the therapist know it very well anyways. So I think
Right.
these are some of the ways in which this school will evolve, and I'm sure it's a wonderful school. It will evolve into something very good and rich and diverse, but it's still a long way to go. Unfortunately, I see a lot
Mhm.
of narcissistic self-righteousness, orthodoxy, which has built up in this school very quickly. And
Mhm.
I feel uh, just as other schools incorporate this into themselves, and EDT does creative forms of this, another element will be from holistic healing. They will use this school, and after
Mhm.
all that happens, I'm sure there will be pressure both from other schools, from law, and from patients themselves, that changes will come about. It will evolve into something very good, very productive, and very, very potent.
Right. So, from contradictions to limitations, from success to healing, we discussed today about ISTDP, which was very interesting subject. Do write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Namaste.
Namaste.